Before we get started, I want to give a quick thank you to this episode's sponsor, Soundacres, ran by Gary Cioni. Soundacres is a recording studio based in New Jersey, just 30 minutes away from Philadelphia. Gary's been a part of many influential bands, including Crime and Stereo, Day Trader, and Nex. On top of that, has recorded for the likes of Free Throw, Pop Mulligan, and so much more. Make sure to check out Soundacres' social media down below, and let's make the album of your dreams.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Nick, your host of On the Scene with Martini. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget, you are the scene.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Nick, on the Scene with Martini. Today I got Travis from Piebald. How you doing today, Travis?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I want to get started. Typically I always start, but I just want to say, I really did enjoy your new record. I know, Dana sent everything to me. When it came out, he's like, "You got to check it out." I checked it out, and it's really, really good. So I'm really excited to
Thank you.
talk about it.
Appreciate that.
So I just want to get started just about how you got into music, what was your introduction, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sounds good.
So, would you mind just telling us your story about growing up, what got you into it?
Um, I guess there's sort of two parts to this. One is there was a radio station in Boston called WFNX, and it was an alternative station. And it didn't play, classic rock or oldies or classical music or whatever. It was playing stranger stuff like B-52s and Pixies and Elvis Costello and Screaming Trees and just sort of truly playing alternative music. And I always gravitated towards the station and thought all this stuff has a more unique sound to me than the stuff we're normally fed, the top 40 hits
Mhm.
or, you know, the Beatles or whatever. I was like, all this stuff has a little bit of a weirdness to it that I appreciate. And I think that helped get me more into playing music and seeing that you could kind of do anything with it. And the other thing is Kurt from Converge. He went to the same high school as myself, Aaron, and John, who was the first drummer of Piebald. And he was definitely like an elder brother in punk and would absolutely introduce us to bands and say, "Hey, I'm doing this side project. Do you want to play bass in it? Or you want to, you know, like with John, you want to play drums?" But he would take us under his wing and be introducing us to bands and sort of helped us, I think, find things that we really liked at that age and introduce us to hardcore music and the hardcore community. And I think that really changed all of us.
I was gonna ask, did you get because I know Piebald kind of fits more of the punkier emo realm of things. Was your first experience or intro to alternative music more so like that hardcore, heavier stuff? Because I also see the Bad Brains album peeking out of the back.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, even what Piebald sounded like at the very beginning was like a chaotic, discordant, screamy hardcore band,
Mhm.
and that is because of what was, I guess, most prevalent around us and we found the most interesting at the time. I know now we're a lot more melodic and we still, I think, have, you know, parts of songs and Piebald has aggression in it,
For
but it's
sure.
also has uh, a melodious element to it that I think also has come into play and became part of what we are. But yes, we are originally, from a punk hardcore background, and that's what formed the band, but that's not what continued to create its personality.
Did you before Piebald ever play in like more of like the traditional like straight edge or just like hardcore sounding bands, or was that really not your musical
That will
scene in terms
that
of
was
playing?
that was not really our musical scene. We appreciated that stuff, the Judge, the Shelter, the other bands that are sort of like meat and potatoes hardcore to
Hmm.
me. But that was never our, even in the hardcore stuff. I think we were more pulled towards things like Shotmaker and Dead Guy and Mohinder and uh, Hoover and things that were not your, Judd sort of like
Yeah.
bringing down the walls hardcore. But I love the Gorilla Biscuits. I think you had an interview with
Yeah.
Civ earlier, but like they really made something special with Start Today that has at this point really like I think been the creation of so many bands, and that's a really
Totally.
special thing. But yeah, I think we already when we found hardcore punk music because of Kurt, um, that wasn't, I think for all of us, that wasn't our favorite thing within the genre.
Hmm.
So we like the weirder stuff, or I don't know if you'd call it weirder, but just we were less the straightforward hardcore guys.
What was your introduction? Like, when did you pick up the guitar?
Let's see. I picked up the bass first. Well, I took piano lessons, so that was like a forced, your family, your mom wants you to do it type of thing. So I
Hmm.
took piano lessons from 6 to about 11 years old, and then the piano becomes uncool. And
Naturally.
then yeah, of course, it's like not a cool instrument.
You can't carry it
Um,
around and show it off either.
yeah, absolutely. And then I picked up a bass because I was a really big fan of Les Claypool and Primus, and I thought his bass playing was very unique. Um, and then I picked up a guitar. So I would say it was like I was just be bursting into being a teenager when I picked up the guitar. Um, and yeah, I don't know what spawned the move over. I guess it was just that Aaron was playing guitar and we thought, let's change the band dynamic and Al pick up a guitar also and we'll find a bass player. And we knew Andy's sister, Leah. She went to our high school, although Andy didn't. He went to a Catholic school called St. John's Prep. And then but he got introduced to us and he started playing bass with myself, Aaron, and John Sullivan, who played drums. Um, but yeah, I don't know what spawned my switch from playing bass to guitar, but somewhere along the line that happened. But I still really appreciate what a great bass player does for a band.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize it really keeps everyone in gears.
Yeah, I feel like bass is easier to pick up and play because you can just play root notes if you want, but it's harder to play well than a guitar, I think. And it adds so much dynamic stuff, and it's the thing that connects the guitars to the drums.
Hmm.
Like it makes, I don't know, it pulls the whole thing together, and if it's done really well, it turns good songs into really good songs.
So
So
is Piebald then? I'm just trying to like think of like the timeline. Is Piebald, since you guys were all friends, is that like your first band or high school
yeah,
band or?
yep. Well, Aaron and I played together in a project with somebody named Todd Collins. He was also in our high school um, for a little while, but that seems very short lived in my concept of time.
Hmm.
But it did help us, I guess, sort of learn to play music with other people. But then, yeah, we found John Sullivan and Andy became part of the fold. And so, yeah, in high school, that's Piebald was our high school band, for us.
What was like navigating that kind of like early days of Piebald with like the DIY and putting yourself out there?
Oh, we just did everything ourselves from, you know, screen printing CD covers and going to get shirts at like Goodwills and then just screen printing on top of what was already there or on the other side of it.
Double
Um,
exposure.
yeah. Uh, Playing shows at the Red Barn. We were lucky to have a few venues that were all ages and kind of, what would I say, babysitted by adults. The Red Barn had this lady named Marilyn who she must be in her 70s now or late 60s. And she, I don't know, was able to rally the adult community of North Andover and be like, hey, I'm going to put on shows at the Red Barn and kids are going to mosh and stuff, but I'm going to keep drugs away from it. And somehow I looking back on it, I'm like, I don't, there must be these places and scenes today. I just don't see them because I'm older, and I can just go to any venue. Um, but the Red Barn was a really wonderful place because touring bands would play there. I would be exposed to music from all over the country, and it would also be a place where we could play and open shows for those bands. So it was uh, that was a great part of sort of helping us get somewhere with being musicians in high school.
Was there a time that you remember, or actually, let me rephrase. Was there like a band or someone that you met at that kind of venue that like took you on tour, helped you get to like that next level of like a show, maybe? Like you saying that there's touring bands coming through?
No, but I think those were more inspirational moments for us. Like I remember
Gotcha.
seeing Walleye play at the Red Barn, and we were mind blown that they would be playing at the Red Barn and seeing them live in like our backyard, basically. It was a very cool experience. But I don't think that necessarily opened up tour situations. And if I remember correctly, one of the first tours we went on was in Canada with Converge and Cave In. And so I guess that the Red Barn and the Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts community
Hmm.
helped us to do that. But yeah,
I
uh,
mean, that's a pretty wild one early tour, Cave In
yeah,
and Converge.
yeah. I think we played, and it was mostly in Canada, if I remember correctly. So we went, and it was in winter time, which now seems so stupid because it was frigid cold. It
It's
was
not a
like
great idea, no.
it was snowing and cold, but we didn't care at all. There was I think, a festival in Montreal that we all played, and then we played like two or three other shows and made it a long weekend, and it was awesome. And in my youthful time, it was very mind expanding and like, oh wow, we can play music everywhere. It's so cool. So um, that was pretty magical, actually.
When recording the first album, was that where was that done at?
We did that in Boston with Brian McTurn, or the first Sometimes Friends Fight, and then When Life Hands You Lemons, which are like the two first. Sometimes Friends Fight isn't an album; it's like 6 songs or something. But we did that and When Life Hands You Lemons with Brian McTurnan, but they were in one. The Sometimes Friends Fight, if I remember correctly, he had a studio like in Alston or Brighton, and then when Life Hands You Lemons, he had a studio somewhere else in some weird little factory thing that had been turned into like different businesses. Um, but yeah, Brian was also someone who he was from DC, but he lived in Boston at the same time we did, and he was a couple years older and was recording bands. So he was definitely somebody in our formative years who uh, kind of just was like, all right, let's track your songs. And it wasn't about, telling us what to do. It was just like, oh, I'll just let these kids do whatever they want and we'll try to make the best thing we can with their whatever they're doing. So that was a pretty magical thing because now Brian does all sorts of stuff. And we were there in, 95 and 96 trying to record our weird ideas. So it was awesome.
I don't always ask that question, but when I do, I feel like 50 to 60% of the answers is Brian did my album
Yeah,
like every time. And it's cool too because like I've had Mike on the podcast, so I need to reach out to Brian with all of
you should.
his discography is probably crazy.
Yeah, the things he's been involved in over the years Like his catalog of creation is vast, much like Kurt's.
Hmm.
Kurt from Converge. He's really got like he's like they both started small, humble beginnings, and then it was like, wow, Kurt has made so many records, Brian has made so many records, and they're both musicians in their own right who
Yeah.
have played in lots of different bands and created lots of music on their own. It's really cool.
At that point in time when you first recorded like your early stuff, were you a part of a label at that point?
No, I mean our demo we just paid for ourselves. Sometimes Friends Fight we just paid for ourselves, making it and recording it. When Life Hands You Lemons, we were on Hydra Head. We did a 7-inch record with them and then that album. Um, but yeah, before that, the first stuff we just figured out, you know, self-creating the product ourselves.
Because at that point, like you're kind of leaving high school, you're going into like your adult years, and you kind of have to make the decision of, like getting like that steady income or career or taking like that bet on yourself of, putting that money in to be able to, because it's not cheap. I mean, I'm sure Brian probably wasn't and terrible about the cost compared to what others might be, but what made you like want to take that like kind of like leap or chance? Did you guys just feel like you guys had something, or was it just more so, let's do it, like we're here?
I think it was let's do it. We're here. We
Okay.
weren't thinking like we're on to something here. I think it was like we're kids and we're creative and this is the most fun thing that we do. So we're gonna put a little money into it to make a demo, to make a first EP, to make songs. That's how you got more known as a band is having releases, right? 7 inches or an album, and so you just take those natural steps, I guess, to making something on your own, and then you hope that people pay attention to it. And but you're going to make it probably no matter what. If you're a kid who's like, this is my outlet, this is my fun, this is my joy, I'll invest in that. I'll still invest in it. We still do things on our own. I just made the uh, music video for This Thing Is Old from our new record, and I made all the puppets and did all the stuff and invested lots of my time into
Yeah.
making a dumb puppet show video because I still do that.
Keeps it fun and creative. And I feel like too, well, I know that you guys were with Iodine, but they kind of let bands have that creative freedom, which is cool. Like it's not like one of those labels that's like you need to do this, you need to do that.
We are a band that has never had a label tell us what to do, and I think that's a good thing because now I can't imagine that at all. Like somebody coming in and saying like, "Oh, you guys aren't wearing the right clothes," or like, "I don't like this song," or "I don't, this is not what you guys should sound like." It's like we're us, not you.
Hmm.
Like how are you? Wait, why are you telling us how to do stuff? I get suggestions or like, I think this would be helpful for the album coming out, or I think you guys should try this, but like somebody telling us how to write songs just sounds so insane to me. And I know that happens with bands. So I'm glad we have never had that as part of our career.
I want to talk about with obviously like I would say the album that you're most known for is the We Are the Only Friends We Have. At least in the vinyl collecting world, I would say.
I think in general, I mean, that's still most of what we play when we play shows. It's mostly what people want to hear. It's, you know, new fans and old fans are probably still finding that album first.
Hmm.
And I mean, I realize its importance to the history of Piebald. I don't know where we would be without it, quite honestly. So, yeah, that record is the record.
Going into like having Tales for the Rages and stuff, do you like even get like is there like a sense of, I don't want to say like anxiety or anything, but a different type of like you want the reception to be there, obviously with all of your music, but like kind of living up to like those kind of old classic emo album standards that some people might hold?
Yeah, I think we did. We do feel that pressure of, hoping that what we put out now, especially 19 years later and after, we put out Friends and we were riding on this high, and then we wrote so much music, and then we put out All Ears, All Eyes all the time, and it just didn't do what we wanted it to do. And I think that was at the time extremely disappointing. But it's the only path we could have taken. It's the
Yeah.
only way this could have happened. So I have to look back on it and say, that's just the album we made at the time. It wasn't what people maybe were expecting. I don't even know if it was what we were expecting, but it was made, and it's a chapter in the Piebald book, just like the new record is, just like Friends was. But I think when we are going to be remembered by most people, it's probably going to be for the Friends record. And that's fine, because to make anything that people like, especially still
Hmm.
25 years later, that's really cool. I'm glad that there's anything that we've made that people has resonated with folks, you know?
For having a record like All Ears, All Eyes, not expect or not getting maybe the reception that you guys were hoping for or expecting, is there anything that you would do differently with that album to maybe like change to maybe gain a way a fan would be? Or, let me try to. I'm trying to think of the best way of
I
saying it, but like a revisiting of that album because I know some bands like to do that, but some bands also are like they don't like to touch the history.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to go back and re-record it, but I think that's probably what, if I could go back in time knowing what I know now, I
Hmm.
think I would go back and streamline the record and make it sound a little different. But again, that's just not happening. It's the way it is. And we made some choices that I think weren't the right choices. And we've done that forever. That's part of being a human, and it's certainly
Yeah.
part of being piebald is making mistakes and hoping that you don't make them again, you know?
For sure. And obviously when people make so many, like it does hurt. But I mean, you guys have been a band for so long and still selling out shows and going on tour and stuff. So you definitely have made enough right ones to push you through. This is more of a question for myself just because I'm a nerd, but I love all your album titles because of how like so there's some of them are so wordy, which I love, like the long album titles. Is that something at this point you guys kind of plan to do? Like
Well, we know that that's what people are maybe expecting out of us, like
that's fair.
a witty, sort of long-winded thing. Maybe not always long-winded, but often it's not your average song or album title. It's got
Mhm.
more wackiness to it and usually more length. But yeah, I think that's part of the piebald equation, you know?
So obviously we're here today because you guys released a new album this year for Tales for the Rages. We talked about it very, very briefly, but now we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a more deeper dive into the record itself. I was just wondering, like, what after all of these years, I mean, there's a big gap besides like the album in 2025, but before that, there's a big gap of um, no music, right? What when you guys go into this, is there anything that you guys plan to do differently than what you guys might have done in the past, or things you might have learned that you guys will definitely take into account to do?
Um, I think what we did differently this time is we never set out to make an album. It was just, let's go record a couple songs. And then it would, a few months later or the following year, it'd be like, hey, I got some more songs. Let's go record those. And then it would be like, let's look at those again and see if we could change them or re-record them. And then we do that. And then somewhere along the line in like 2024, I think it was, I was like, I think we have an album and then some. We just need to like now hone it in. So there wasn't, it sort of happened a lot more organically and less forced than other
Hmm.
records, and it certainly happened on a timeline that was very open. There wasn't again, when we started recording, it wasn't thinking like, oh, let's put out an album. It was like, let's just record some songs again and see what happens. Um, and so I think it was a more organic creation than previous efforts because those were more, you have a timeline, you have a time frame, people are expecting an album. They, this was like, let's just keep writing songs. And when we have way more than we need, or it was like we don't even know what the outcome will be, but let's just keep recording songs. And then I think we all saw like, okay, when we have way more than we need, let's whittle it down to our favorite finished songs and put them together. And I think at the end we had like 14 songs and two got pushed to the side, but there were others. There's another like six songs I can think of that either were recorded and not quite finished, or like they just didn't maybe reach their final form.
Hmm.
So this album, making of this album was a lot more organic and not based on like a time frame. It just happened.
From when you guys like first, when you even just you first wrote that song, how long did it take then to kind of from start to finish for this album?
I think the first we recorded a song called Baby Screams and the first version of Gentleman Callers, I believe in 2019. I may be wrong, but I think it was then. But then since then, we kind of just did sessions here where we'd be like, all right, here's five songs. Or I remember we had one time we had seven songs we were trying to track at least the beginnings of, and they were called the Hot Seven.
Hmm.
Um, and then it'd be like, okay, now we have two songs. Let's really focus on those. We'd go back and like, be like, okay, got like four more songs. Let's work on those. And then we'd go to Doug's again and try to like look at all the songs and work on all of them and see what they needed, or like do redo versions of songs and be like, all right, let's just totally record that one over again. Um, and so I think the whole album was like a 6 year period, making the whole thing, but not a
Not because you were like in a roadblock, just because it was,
just because that's the time that we had and we didn't
yeah.
know it was going to be an album. I think we thought like, okay, when we get to like the two songs we really like, we're just going to self-release them and put them out on our own, and we don't care about an album. Let's just put out a song. But then Iodine came along, started doing the represses, and we're like, we're inching towards an album. We want that to happen as well, and they were definitely for it. So we then started to construct it. Once we knew we had a batch of songs, we were like, all right, we are now making an album that is clear. Let's work on the missing pieces and making sure that the songs that we know are going to go on the record sound as good as they can. And we
Did
have
you,
the best versions of those songs.
that's fair. Do you feel like even though it took so, not want to say took so long, but there were so many years in between, like I feel like some musicians might feel, I don't want to say anxious, but even so, like, oh, wait, I could change this. Like, you almost get too much time, right? You want to perfect your craft. Do you feel like kind of having, like, in lack of better words, like that nonchalant attitude towards it, it kind of eased that pressure that you guys even might have on yourself?
Yeah, because when there's not the focus on an album and there's just the focus on making songs, the pressure is definitely alleviated. There wasn't a manager or a label hounding us for when the record was going to be ready. It was just us recording songs and saying, all right, this one's in the album pile for sure. Or like, this one's really good, but I think we could do a better version. Or I'm going to work on the lyrics to this one. We'll go back and I'll re-record those once I have uh, a better lyrical vibe or whatever. So it was nice to be able to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, to like craft the songs as best we could.
And I was kind of going to ask that too, with having that time frame and going back and revisiting some things. People usually have themes or a certain amount of themes that they try to write within for records and stuff. But with that time gap, obviously so much in the world has changed. Do you feel like that changed your perspective on the album at all? Or did you guys have a pretty clear head once you guys realized it was going to be an album, what you guys were going to do?
Um, I don't know. I don't think we had really a lot of clarity. I think it was an organic creation thing where stuff just started to pop up. I'd be like, what kind of like vibe are we missing, or what song topic is not included in here that might help the album, and then you'd write something about that or try to formulate some songs to fit in spaces that you maybe thought needed something. So I guess, yeah, it seems like there wasn't that really.
Understood. Did you find it, or did Piebald as a whole find it a little difficult at all to hop in the recording studio, not recording as much as you guys had like in the previous decade, like in early 2000s?
I uh I would say no. I think we all, because we'd been playing together for a few years,
Hmm.
right? The 2016 to 2018, we'd had some really good shows. We did the Christmas EP, which I think also opened the door for us in terms of creating again together. Um, and I think we're all just more mature people, for better or worse, but like kind of more mature as human beings and then also as musicians. So maybe we know how to communicate with each other a little bit better now, or and just know what we're looking for from music a little more. Although that's always changing, right? That's the beauty of music, is that you hear something and it can still blow your mind, right? So, um, but yeah, I think maybe we were a little worried at first about like what we were doing, but I think that wore off really quickly because we just know when we go into the studio, we're there to create stuff, no matter what the outcome is going to be. Like when we started this, we didn't know it was going to be an album. We just started
Hmm.
recording songs, and I think that took a lot of the pressure off and helped us to just be creative dudes in a room together again.
I want to say for the album art, I really, really enjoy the album art for this record. I was just wondering, like, did you guys like how did you guys pick out the album art, or did you guys get like presented a few options? Because I know some labels do that, or was it more so you guys wanted something along the
We
lines of that?
we had a bunch of ideas that didn't really seem to work. Andy and I went back and forth a lot, and then a gentleman named Ethan, um, he made some flyers for us, and we really liked his sort of like watercolory uh, vibed art. We had a show at Deep Cuts. It was one of our Christmas shows. We did 2 nights there, and he did like it's like a wolf eating a cake. I'm looking at it now, and it's like just looks kind of watercolory. And I was like, his vibe is very cool. Let's throw him a couple ideas and see what he comes up with. And the first idea was like, let's do some cryptids, like it would be like Mothman and a Rougarou and this guy. And then that was too like whimsical and fun. And we're like, this record is fun in a piebald way, but it's kind of more serious. And then Andy took photos of each of us and like mashed them together. And now I'm looking at the record cover. I'm looking at it right now. And he was like, Ethan, try something. Oh, it's Evan, right? Yeah, Evan. And Evan, try something like this. And then he came back to us with like a few different color palettes of um, that, the four of us, just mostly our faces, bust stuff. And I think that was where we were like, okay, I think we're getting somewhere now, even though, it's just like a collage of the four of us with some like artistic stuff happening in the background. But yeah, Evan Benoit is his name, did a great job, and he did the cover, and then somebody in the Iodine in-house kind of like put together the rest of the layout, but obviously followed his lead with the color scheme and all that. So Yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to Evan.
I thought everything really worked out well. Even just like the variants that were picked for the album, like the color variants and stuff, like it was very well curated.
Yeah, the Bridge and I did a really good job. They do um a great job making records and different colors and even the packaging. They really do a good job on the product. It's nice.
Do you try to keep that like Bridge Nine, like being a Massachusetts band? Do you guys try to keep it like as local as possible,
Uh,
or is it more so just kind of work out that way?
yeah, I think it just works out that way. I mean, that's like our home, and the the Bridge Nines, the Death Wishes, the Iodines, like those were all people and things that originated in the Massachusetts, Boston, New England area, and therefore our ties with those brands and those people are strong because we have worked together in the past and probably will continue to do so in the future.
I know that you guys did some shows with the format and stuff, and you guys did some shows towards the end of last year. You actually played at one of my local venues at Millersville, the Phantom Power and stuff.
Yep.
Uh, do you guys have a plan on doing like another tour this year to kind of promote the album again and do like another recycle of it?
Yes, we are hoping to tour in October, but the dates haven't been confirmed yet. And then I'm sure we will really do some touring next year and hopefully play as many festivals as we can as well. But the plan is, I think, really focus on next year spring. But there are supposedly some October dates that are coming down the pipeline.
Sweet. And I just want to talk about too with writing this record. Did you kind of just keep casually writing when even when you're not in the studio, like on the road, or do you have like a spot or an area where you really feel like you get most productive out of it?
We, I think, because GarageBand has come so far and you can share projects with people. I I'm obviously the main songwriter, although Andy and Aaron have songs on the record and everyone helps in the editing process.
Mhm.
But if I had an idea, I just make it on GarageBand and throw some lyrics on it and then send it to the other guys and be like, all right, if you're interested in this, put your ideas up there and then we'll keep working on it. Or if you have editorial ideas, throw them out there. And I think that was, especially during COVID, um, sending songs we were working on back and forth was amazing because you could work on them before you got in the studio. That way, when we got together and started tracking them at Doug's, we weren't starting from zero. We were starting from like being at step three already. So I think being able to transfer songs very easily these days is has proven to be very helpful for us.
I know you talked earlier too about how you guys wrote so much over the years, so you guys kind of had to scale back. Obviously there was extra songs, and you said there may be some unfinished songs. But do you guys plan on doing like a deluxe kind of album or a deluxe version of the album or?
I doubt it. I think, the 12, I guess it's really 13 songs on the record and the two others that are B-sides and one came out with the New Noise magazine
Hmm.
flexi disc. I think those kind of stand alone, but I do think the like 5 or 6 or 8 songs that we didn't finish uh or didn't quite get to the finish line, those will hopefully be the makings of the next Piebald record. They'll be the beginning of that.
Do you feel like this album kind of sparked like the flow and to get you guys back into like the studio to keep putting out records then?
I would say yes, but I don't know what the future will bring. I don't, this could be the last Piebald record. Hopefully it's not, but it- we just don't know in this wacky world and with everyone's schedule. And it's not easy for us to get together in general.
Hmm.
And so it's usually to play shows, not be creative. But I think when we knew we'd hit the like, okay, we have an album in the making. But I think now that we all have made it and see that it can be done, we're all like, oh yeah, we still have more songs to give to the world. So I do think that that is potentially a piebald future where there's more records. Yeah.
I love a piebald future. That works. And I just want to ask you one final question here. What is something that you, even though again we keep talking about like natural or organic, about this album, but is there any types of themes or a song you want to write or an idea you want to write about that didn't quite make it into this record that you want to in the future?
We had a song that's about our love of Tom Petty that didn't make it onto the
That's pretty cool.
album. Yeah, it's called "Don't Bore Us, Get to the Chorus." But I feel like that song was like probably my favorite that didn't make it on the album because I think we recorded it three different times since 2018, and it just never was perfect, you
Hmm.
know, but I hope that it sees the light of day sometime. But yeah, that's the main one I can think about right off the bat.
I love the title. That's a
Thanks.
that's a good title. But yeah, I just want to thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that we see those dates in October, and I'll make sure to post about them and hopefully get out to a show if I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Till next time, guys. Peace.